Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Down and Dirty. Today, we have with us Nathasha Kumar. I am so excited to introduce her to you. We had a chance to work closely very recently, and the more I know of her, the more I'm inspired by her story. She is a serial entrepreneur. She's been an entrepreneur for over a decade. In the lifestyle and the fashion space, bootstrapped two companies, Asort and Vajor, and Asort's actually the first fashion brand in India to start experiences as an extension of product services in order to encourage community building and customer retention. And it's been profitable from year one onwards. Recently, Nathasha, you've also had a successful exit from that company. So congratulations. And
Thank you.
you're
Thank you.
already on the next venture, as is typical of a serial entrepreneur. It's currently in stealth mode, guys. So there's nothing much to say here except watch this space and follow Nathasha to see what she's up to. And you've also been angel investing since 2021. Nathasha, welcome, and it's great to
Thank
have
you,
you here.
Tapsi. Same. I'm so excited. Looking forward to this.
Okay, fantastic. So without further ado, are you ready to get down and dirty with us?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I love the name.
Yeah. Me too. Me too. Okay. All right. So let's start by talking about, in a nutshell, what is the project that you want to share with the viewers and the listeners today that you think is important to put out there?
Cool. So one project that I, had the close association with is experiences, right?
Mm.
So I've run two companies in the past, and both in the fashion and lifestyle space. And one of the major problem areas, Tapsi, that we're seeing across the panel today in a lot of D2C brands and in fact, even traditional brands, right, is the customer acquisition cost. And the way people have been using digital ads, digital marketing to kind of, fight the battle that we are fighting. And every D2C founder that you talk to today,
Mm.
if you talk about their biggest challenge is the non-predictability of the ad that they are running. So I've, since I would say day one, I've always been pro building the community, building power users for the product and the brand that once launches. And when we started thinking about how do we structure it in a more beautiful way, when we move across just the monetary reward point of the structures, right? And how do we build a community in a manner that there is a stronger glue factor that's attaching to the community? And that's where the whole idea of experiences came. And that was also very personal because I think I'm a millennial, so I enjoy experiences. I spend more on travel, on experiences, on education, more than just the tangible stuff like cars or houses or whatever it is, right? So that's where it came from. I see experiences as a strong personal growth tool. And from a business standpoint, I see this as a strong community building tool, right? And I would like to talk about the whole idea, how we started it, how is it performing, what challenges we faced, and so on and so forth. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, experiences, like you said, is something that everyone is after now because all brands are trying to build communities. And I think that's a strategy. I mean, the strategy behind it is how do we nurture people on the platform, right? By offering more
Yeah.
than, like you said, more than the monetary reward or benefits or the tangible products and services that they're seeking. So, all right, so let's talk about experiences. And the first question that I have for you is regarding the idea. So let's kind of dig into how did you latch on to focusing on experiences as something that you want to integrate into your business model so deeply? Did that inspiration come from your own experience as a serial entrepreneur, or did it come from some market research that you did? Did you talk to experts? Where's the genesis of the idea?
For me, it's very personal, right, Tapsi? I've always been very interested in the whole personal growth space, and how traditionally it's been done, right? It's primarily been traditional seminars and these classes. And as we saw the evolution of digital tech coming into the play with whole edtech ecosystem, and then on the parallel side, we were seeing this expansion of experiences happening in the global space for companies like Kontiki, or for example in India there are several other companies that are into experiences space, right? And I saw this trend where people want to go out and explore, and they are seeking balance in some sort of a way, right? And the kind of experiences that people are going into, they just want to belong. And I was seeing this trend across platforms, across social media, and it was a very high intuition that was coming, that this can be the extension of the way we we can talk about a value system or a product, right? And it was very non-traditional, because usually if you talk about a product, you need to do the traditional marketing gimmicks, you'll have a product launch, you'll have a fashion show. So these were like the basic structures that used to happen, and the access to all these experiences was very exclusive and limited to certain users or a very tight-knit community. And particularly in fashion, I saw a gatekeeping that was happening.
Hmm.
And I felt that gatekeeping was so strong that only limited people were getting access to these fashion shows or these experiences that was happening. And what about the other power users or other users that you want to engage within what you're selling? um, so it came out of my personal need to kind of go experiences and experience different stuff, learn from it. Second, the trend that we were observing across the globe. And third, the whole idea to democratize the whole, basically break the wall of that gate, right? To give access to the conversation or the story or the brand or the experiences to masses or your customers. So these were three strongest points that came across, and of course followed by the data that came after that, right? But I'll not lie that it was not the data first, it was more intuition, and then followed by, once we started kind of dwelling into it, more data points started coming across, and that's where the whole idea kind of got strengthened, that this is the right way to go forward.
Got it. So, can you give us an example of what is an experience that is not gate walled?
Cool. So for example, the first experiences I think we started doing around 2018, late 2018, 2019, right? Early 2019. And for us, it was very clear. So we had one of the brand called Vajor, again, fashion and lifestyle, bohemian brand. And we started as a fast fashion label and then evolved into this mindful, bohemian conscious sort of a brand. And the whole conversation and the whole evolution for the brand came from the customers, because the customers started giving us more feedback. This is the kind of product that we like, and that's where the whole journey started. We started listening more to our customers in the process. And as we were talking about, it was tiniest insight, Tapsi. I would go to our customers Instagram pages and go see where are they traveling to, what are they exactly doing, right?
Yeah.
Just to figure out what our customer is like. Of course, talking is one great example, and that's what we do at Poocho. But just going onto their social media profile and somewhere stalking them in some way or the
Yeah,
other.
observing is a huge other type of insight, right? Like observation, whether through Instagram pages or physically watching someone in their home space, it's very powerful.
Yeah. So that's where we started seeing that what kind of, areas are they going to, where are they traveling to, what kind of lifestyle are they, what kind of restaurants or cafes they're going to. So that gave us insight. And if they are anyways doing that in their personal life, if we extend that with the brand or the story that we have, it'll be a great mix. So for example, the basics, examples of experiences we started was like Urdu poetry and wine tasting, for example, in Delhi, right? There was a one basic experiment that we did. We called a guy who was great in Urdu poetry from Jamia, the local college here. And then we had somebody who was part of the, she was a customer, and she owned a great cafe somewhere in South Delhi. And they collaborated and they hosted this experience along with one of our team member. And that's where we invited a lot of our customers from Delhi to say, hey, we are hosting this, would you like to come? And just like that, we started kind of doing these various experiments with our experiences. Sometimes the customers would pay for it, and sometimes we would just do it for free to our power users. And the great aspect of this entire thing was the upsee that all the co-hosts, they were hosting the experience with us. They were part of the community, either the customers or a friend of a customer, somebody like that. So it was a completely word of mouth thing. And just to give a great example of what we did, so we did a trip to Uzbekistan, for our community.
Okay.
And it was a beautiful collaboration between our head designer and the experience had at that point of time, and they did Uzbekistan as a travel experience, and the designer launched a collection around Silk Route.
Wow.
So it was a beautiful extension of what the product we were selling, um, home, fashion, accessories. And then followed by, like, I think a month later, we did this experience to Uzbekistan. 10-15 power users went there. They had this entire storyline, the local anthropologist or the local
Yeah.
historians talk about what Silk Route was. So
Correct.
for us, what it did, we just had 15 power users going for that event or that experience. But the content that came out, we had like big chunk of content to talk about for 2-3 months. Right?
Yes.
And that also became like a great example for us to say, hey, we can merge the product storytelling into the experience storytelling, where it's not just limited to 15 people, it's also giving access to the other thousands of users that we have on social media and on our mailer list. And next time they would also want to do that. Right?
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. So it seems like what you did to start with is you first kind of figured out your customer personas. Like, what are they after? What do they like? Where are they traveling? Do they eat at, do they go out to cafes? Are they posting selfies with friends? Are they social, not social? Like, who are they? And then kind of think about an experiential offering that may be directly or indirectly connected to product offerings of your community members, right? So let's talk about the next stage of this then. So you had this idea, you wanted to implement it. Before you got to your Uzbekistan style project, how did you get this idea off the ground? Let's start with, when we're talking about getting it off the ground, I want like the boring logistical stuff, right? Did you have a team? Was it just you? Did you hire a few people to make this come to life?
Yeah. So we had a team of 3 people doing this.
Okay.
For
Okay.
Vajor, right? With Asort now, because we took that idea and then with Asort, we kind of really scaled it up at a very different level altogether.
Okay.
Where there is a wallet point structure attached to the entire thing now. But it all started from the idea from Vajor, right? So we had a team of 3 people. We hired somebody who used to host experiences, local experiences, right? She's an avid traveler herself. We got her on board. And then there were other 2 very young, great, smart chaps. One of them was coming from wedding industry, right? She used to work with these wedding planners, host these beautiful wedding experiences, right? Now, coming from that contrast for us to hire her was because she could understand the logistics of setup,
Yes.
the experience, what the place should be like, the flowers and whatnot. And the other guy was that we hired, he was again an avid traveler, like an historian, studying Malcha, like all these Mughal Empire stuff. So he was deeply into that, right? So we the clear idea was we need to hire people who live and breathe all of this,
Yes.
to a deeper extent themselves, so they can kind of take it to a different level altogether. Although we just had a team of 3 people, or the marketing folks, the designers, they were deeply involved into these processes as well. So there was the kickstart for us, but we always knew that scale would always happen when we have our community hosting these experiences for us. We can't do it. We can't hire 10-15 other people to kind of keep running these experiences, right? So the idea was very clearly the hosts are going to be our community members, and we will have quality parameters that will taken care by the other community members as well. So we would roll out a survey after every experience, and we get a deeper insight on what everybody felt. So these were the logistical, I think, the team stuff, the team part of it. For international travel, of course, one of our team member used to travel with the entire bunch.
Of course.
we would hire local photographers there, the local host or experience curators from that local space only to kind of do this for us, right? So the entire thing was very, very lean, Tapsi. Like I always knew that if we have to scale this up, it has to be done by the community. We can't do it ourselves. We just need to kickstart. And the fact that if you need to get people to host these unique experiences, they better live and breathe that lifestyle. And they should not be bounded by a 9 to 5, right?
Mm.
Because you need a much more larger, I would say, a mind space to kind of think about these things. Because experience is not that, hey, you come to my place, we'll make you drink coffee or something like that, and we just chat and go away. It's not shallow as that. Every experience would go into a deeper layer of anything that we would talk about. Either it's, for example, there was the experiment that we did, is a Japanese art. They would break a piece of pottery product, and then they would stick it together with gold leaf, right? So deeper experiences behind such thing would be very different, and the meaning would be very different. People would just come to that experience and take away something about their life or whatever is going on to their entire life experience, right? So it needed to be on a much deeper level, and I knew the kind of people that we would require to host such experiences were not bounded by 9 to 5.
Got
And
it. Yeah, that is it. That seems to be an important consideration as you were. I imagine shortlisting people from your own community. One of the criteria was, are they bound by 9 to? Will they have the bandwidth, basically, right,
Yeah.
to build something that's a deeper experience?
Yeah, and we were just curating. That's it. I think our
Yeah.
job was to just initially, of course, do some of the events ourselves,
Yeah.
and then eventually to just curate. We were just talent scouting.
Right, right. So let's say we've talked a little bit about, okay, you start with a core team, 2 to 3 people who have experience in experiences, right? Whatever those experiences are, whether wedding, historical tours, art and craft, right? Whatever it could be. What kind of timeline were you working with? Did you give yourself a deadline saying, if we can't get this off the ground within this period of time, then what? Were you working with time? How were you working with time?
So I don't think we had a timeline in place, right? Of
Okay.
course, we had like, okay, we have 3 months to launch this entire thing. From the
Mhm.
day I hired my first hire for this particular vertical,
Mhm.
right? So I knew within 3 months we have to kickstart the experiences where every month we're doing at least 5, 6 different experiences altogether.
Mm.
So it took us 3 months for that entire thing, but mentally in my mind, I knew we have to kind of do this. We'll have to run it for a year. And we were very clear that this has to break even the first year, right?
Mm.
This is something that we do not want to kind of keep investing into ourselves. It needs to be a sustainable tool, in order to kind of also scale to a lot of different extent. So first year was very, very clear for us, that we would give it one complete year to kind of make it profitable, make it work for us, and give us the proof of concept, that it works for community retention part of it also, right?
Understood.
But if I think about Tapsi, for a startup founder or a company founder today,
Yeah.
I think within anything between 3 to 4 months is a great time period to kind of kickstart. But more than the timeline, I truly believe the first question that everybody needs to ask is, why am I doing this? Right? What is the outcome that I like out of it? It's not that, okay, I have a, let's say, a beauty brand or an FMCG brand. I would just keep uh, doing experiences around my product, or just food testings, or all these very basic
Yeah.
experiences. But I think the deeper question is, why am I doing it, and what am I talking about?
Yeah.
The thing that I see people get in community building wrong is that they just keep talking about their product on a very shallow level, assuming that a magic wand would work and there will be an outcome to the table. I think, why would people stick to your brand or the community that you're building?
Mm.
We must think about that people want to belong,
Yeah.
right? And people want to belong to a place where they can. There's a very limited set of people that go out of their comfort zone. Most of the people love staying in the comfort zone, and there is nothing wrong with it. They love to stick with people that have the different similar mindset, because they want to keep evolving that aspect of themselves, right? So as a founder, think about what is the aspect. What are you talking about? Are you talking about makeup as an expression? Are you talking about makeup as an expression because you have something to say in the world? Are you talking about healthy living or healthy eating? What are you talking about? And whatever your answer is, take it up a notch. So, for example, if you run an FMCG healthy brand product, I think you're selling muesli, for example, right? Your talking point is, I need to talk about healthy eating. Now, let's just go beyond healthy eating for a moment and ask ourselves, what is beyond healthy eating? Healthy eating is living a holistic, healthy lifestyle, which not just affects your body, it also affects your mental health. It's also a ripple effect the way you show up in the world. So that's a much more larger talking point that you have than just healthy eating because I want to avoid having sugar because my mom had it. So let's go a notch beyond, and that's the talking point that we need to have. And now start thinking about, if I start talking about this, what kind of experiences my customers would like to come in, right? And the perception that many of us Tapsi have that in order to do these experiences, we need heavy pockets. The answer is clearly no. Today, any customers who's willing to pay, the average cart size in fashion is 1600 to 1700 rupees, right? And I was really surprised to see that people were willing to spend more on experiences, even as paid experiences. They would bring in their friends, they would bring in their children to do these clay making, art making stuff. And I was surprised to see that the average cart size there would be like 3,800 or 4,000 bucks, more than a tangible product. And because people want to kind of go into these experiences and just be for some time because there is nothing much to do. So get this out of your mind that in order to do these experiences, I need to spend my own money. Trust me, if you curate it beautifully, you have a strong talking point. You can host experiences where you can invite your customers to pay for it and come, right? So one clear part of it is that you need to know why are you doing it, what's the outcome that you want. You need a strong conversation point around your product, around the topic of the product. Second is that you need to make sure that uh, you have your what am I talking about clear. And third is the very basic stuff. Do you have a strong mailing list? Is your data in place, right? Because it's most of the time a lot of these, I did that for a couple of years when I started off, right? I never paid much attention to the data. I never paid much attention to identifying or bucketing our customers into different places. And it was all in my head all the time. And when you need to start scaling all of this, it needs to come into tangible buckets.
Yeah.
You can always go back to that. This is A type of a customer, a B type of a customer, a C type of customers. And when I started, there were not many SaaS tool available in the market, Tapsi. Today, there are far more, way, I would say, cheaper tools that are available that can connect to your Shopify, as API, and then you can start bucketing your customers like that. Based on the buckets, then you can kind of do the A/B testing and the experiences as well there. So this is extremely important. If you are not doing that as a founder today, I would say if I need to start a brand today, I would do this for the first part, because I know that data is extremely important for me in the decision making. Second is making sure whatever product that I launch, tangible or non-tangible, is kind of being, it's kind of going to the right set of people, because everything doesn't work for everyone in your community or your customer set point. Some customers are going to be there for deals, some customers are going to be there for innovation, and some customers are just there experimenting, passing by, but their ears and eyes are open. The only thing is, how do you grab their attention and kind of sustain them in your business? So third is the data point, right?
Yeah.
So three clear things. What is the outcome that I want out of it? What am I talking about? Third is getting my data and bucketing my customer data points into the place. I think getting these three things in place is a great kickstart. You don't need to hire a team to kind of do that as well. Sometimes, we can always access to power users and say, hey, can we collaborate? right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of hosting an experience. I know you do this. You talk about healthy living. Can we just collaborate? And it's so beautiful, Tapsi, today to kind of witness that people are much more open to, we'll have this influencer world where people are charging a lakh rupee for very basic photo shoots and videos today, right? And on the other hand, we have somebody who just have 10,000 followers on Instagram, but I would say the influence is far more deeper than somebody who has a lakh.
Yeah.
And um, and the conversation point for somebody who has 10,000 is far more deeper. So always keep an eye out for the power users or key users of your product like that, and go out and reach out to them instead of just doing a post collaboration. Say, can we do an experience collaboration, right?
Yeah.
It's way easier to do that today.
This is this is all music to my ears, Natasha, because talking about segmenting, audiences, that is something I 100% believe in the power of. That you cannot start without having some baseline understanding of the different types of needs or behaviors of your audience. And then the fact that you just mentioned collaborating with your power users or your brand loyalists, again, is something that I very, very strongly, even at a personal level and a work level, believe that's where everyone should be kickstarting all their experiments. Because these are people who are not going to leave you because you tried something and failed. They like you for something deeper, right?
Yeah.
So collaborate with them and say, hey, I'm trying this. I don't know if it's going to work out, but I see you're in the same space. Would you be willing to help? I think it's the best way to start, rather than trying to find someone outside who may or may not be your ideal audience.
Now, how this entire thing panned out at my other company, we have a very larger set of resellers that are selling a product at Asort in Bharat, a very different mindset altogether, where the priority clearly is to make money, roti kapda makan, right? And as we know, in the whole personal development space, the whole travel space, you start enjoying that after you've reached a certain scale of your life, where you have stability of money coming in, stability of your relationships, all of that. Only then the spiritual transition and all that started happening, right? We know the the hierarchy of needs is very, very different.
Yes.
So it was a great experiment for us to see and say, hey, can we just take this idea and implement it in Bharat, where they're still at a very different level. Some of them, yes, are doing good in their life, but some of them are still kind of discovering. A young girl who's straight out of college, there's no job, so she's just selling fashion to just make ends meet, right? How do we give her this experience? She might not want to go to Uzbekistan, but what does she want? She probably wants training around something. She probably wants training around communication, right? And that too in a non-traditional setting altogether, and in her own language altogether. So the shape kind of took a more, I would say, educational turn.
Mm.
There was more experiences turn as well, where we would do like local experiences. Um, and the TG would be different, of course. The TG would be who's a little stable with their income and
Right.
all, and they want to travel, and and how we started putting across this particular product or vertical is that it's a tool for your growth. And at that point of time, I remember one of the Indian actors, I forgot his name. He's a brilliant actor in India. He said कि अगर आपको कुछ भी सीखना है ना इंडिया में, he said it very beautifully, कहते आप ट्रेन पे चढ़ो पूरा इंडिया घूम लो. He said that to younger audience of India. पैसा नहीं है ना, कहते इतना सस्ता ट्रैवल करना, you just get on a trail and just travel, and the kind of experiences you will come back with are going to be mind blowing. That's way better than doing any MBA, because even after doing any MBA or any higher education, you're not getting jobs.
Yeah.
You might do something of your own, right? But at least go out, see the world, see India on a budget, and come back with a different mentality altogether. That's going to be your biggest game changer. And at that point of time, that whole thing, that reel went viral on social media, right? And I could see our community members also resharing that. And that's where that became a talking point, that experiences is a tool for your growth, your personal growth. You become a community member, you sell whatever that you do, whatever business that you do for that, right? Out of the direct commission that we are supposed to give. So, for example, if we are supposed to give you 100 rupees, you can park that 5 rupees in your growth wallet. So we introduced something called a growth wallet, growth wallet is that you can use the points from that growth wallet to invest in all these experiences that we were hosting. Again, powered by our power users, other community members, of course, other hosts as well. So there were a list of experiences we were doing to, I don't know, an overnight camping somewhere where we would talk about storytelling, and then we would do storytelling experiences, we would do public speaking experiences, we would do communication experiences, how to dress up really well, how to use your time really well, right from the online experiences to the offline experiences, but driving towards more of the personal development space, right? Because
Right.
again would be very different. And initially we saw a little apprehension from the people saying, "Hum ghoom ke kya kar lenge?" You know, there was the
Yeah.
thought, I need that money. I need that money to run my show at home. But then that's where we started saying that it is an investment that would work great for you, right? Because the kind of income that you earn is equivalent to the way you are, the way you think. And that's true to a lot of extent, Tapsi, right? And when we started kind of putting that across, it took us, I would say, 4 to 5 months to make sure that the people understood that aspect of it. And once they started experiences, I think the first 500 users for us were super important. The first, I would say, 10, 15 experiences for us were super important.
Yeah.
And when these 500 people went back to their homes or their towns, and they're like, "ये तो बहुत जबरदस्त था." And that's where they kind of started percolating that whole idea that this is fine, this will work. So we did an A/B testing there, Tapsi, where we gave options to people and said, "Hey, you can opt for choosing the growth wallet and you can opt out of it any single point of time. There is no restriction. So we're not limiting you.
Mm-hmm.
Want to go ahead and do it for yourself? We would really love that." So initially, some of them did, some of them didn't. But once the first 500 users started using the experiences, we start going to these experiments, they came back, they did this beautiful word of mouth. And today, I would say close to 80% of our users are opting for that entire growth wallet.
And is this all word of mouth? Or are they also posting online and saying, "Oh my God, this experience from Asort was very helpful"? Like, how did they spread organically?
Yeah, organically. They would just take pictures. They would go back to the community. They would have the local community needs. They would just go out and just talk about it, right?
Mhm.
And the fact is, in the whole community selling space, right? They're really close knitted. They
Right.
talk on WhatsApp, and they're meeting each other over for a chai at tapri or something like that. So that's where it's organically happening, more than just the social media aspect of it as well, right? So trinkle this within the community, but once it's taken off, it's really taken off today. So
So,
today, around, yeah,
sorry, go ahead. So today around
so 80 to 85% of the users are using this tool.
the growth wallet. So they've opted for the growth wallet.
Yep.
That is amazing. So you already, in this conversation talked a little bit about some of the challenges, like initially your first 10, 15 um, experiences that you offered were high stake, right? As in, like, you had to first get the ball rolling before other people can talk about it and spread the word organically. Can we now switch gears and talk a little bit more about hindsight? So, looking back at launching this, what were, if there's someone who checks all the boxes, they're doing it for the right reason, they have the messaging in place, they want to really go ahead and do this, what would you caution them against? Or what are some lessons learned that you would say, don't do this, I did that, try this instead?
I think going for too many experiments at one given point of time. When I say going for too many experiments at one given point of time, is launching, so within the entire experience process, right? You'll also have to divide the kind of experiences you want to host. And of course, it depends on the community or the kind of customers or the product that you have. It definitely will come out of that, right? That's the outcome of it. Experimenting with too many options at one point of time. So, for example, for us, we started doing local experiences, which would be like a 2-hour experience or a 3-hour experience. And then we also simultaneously started doing India travel experiences. We would be 3 days to 4 days. And then we also started bringing. So we were doing all three experiments at one given point of time, right? Now, hindsight, what it did, it pressured the team a lot, right? I would see the international experiences were far easier for us to do, right? It was high ticket size again, easy to sell as well, because people were willing to spend, and a different type of cream would come out of the whole community to attend these experiences. While on the other hand, the local experiences were a little it required a little more push for us to kind of, make it profitable or break even. So I could sense that when we were doing all three together, there was a pressure from the team, and we collective started thinking, why don't we just do the travel part of it? Why not the local? But we knew that local would be far more valuable for us in the longer term, although it requires a lot more effort, or I would say investment today. Um, at that point of time, what I think the decision we should have taken is focus on one element, maybe do like local experiences and scale it to a certain extent before just getting into the local India travel and the international travel also. For me, it also came out of, I think, greed to a lot of extent, greed to kind of be faster.
Yeah.
Right. And hindsight, I was warned by my team members to kind of take it slow. But I think I was a totally different person back then together, and I just wanted to eat everything hot and crispy. And I think hindsight, if I need to do it differently, I would say just focus on one element
Yeah.
first. Make sure everyone in your team is just focusing on that, and just scale it to a certain extent.
Correct. And track the metrics for that, right? If you're not getting a lot of traction, if you're not able to hit your benchmarks when it comes to how much, what revenue you're getting in for all the costs that you're incurring, then it's time to consider the domestic travel perhaps, or the international travel perhaps. So, okay. So that that is exactly the kind of information I was looking for, is saying, we all make mistakes. Now, nothing like learning from somebody else's mistake and saying, let's start small, even though I'm very motivated to and excited to try three things at once. I can't believe you did three things at once, because logistically, I cannot imagine how much went into that. Because especially for travel, my gosh, just to put things together, is a lot. So, okay, so we're nearing the end of the podcast. The only thing I have to ask you right now is rapid fire questions. So, are you ready for them? They're 4 short and sweet questions.
Ooh, let's
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, a person who inspires you.
So lately I've been reading a lot of the work from Shri Aurobindo and the mother. I think these guys were way ahead of their time, and I'm not coming from a religious context. It's just the way we humans need to evolve in order to be. So I've been really inspired by that whole thing recently.
Okay. All right. A book or a podcast that you're into right now?
I watch a lot of Joe Rogan. I would say probably I'm more into the whole, the other side of the stuff and the world. And also the fact that Jordan Peterson, even though I don't agree with a lot of his thinking, but I think he adds an aspect, or he adds a perspective that really makes you think that maybe sometimes the woke culture that we are living in, what is the reality, what is not, and sometimes it's good to kind of challenge your own wokeness also. So I've been enjoying that lately.
Okay. For someone who lives, eats, and breathes brands, I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite brand?
So
Personal
far,
favorite, huh? Personal favorite.
I mean, I love Forest Essential in India. I think they were like the pioneers and the change makers in the entire beauty and skincare space. Kind of took the branding to a different level, to the world, I would say. So a big fan of Forest Essential. From my own brands, I have a deep love for my brand Vajor. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to stick with Forest Essentials. Favorite. The other one's biased.
That's biased, yes.
Okay, so what do you wish that you had done when you were 20?
Not so rapid fire, huh? I think focus, I'd say focus more on why and how I want to do things. Um, a little bit more context there. I think when you are really young, you just want to get things done really quick, and there's nothing wrong with that. I feel sometimes if we just focus on just the action part of it, we miss the thinking part of it. And I missed a lot of thinking part, and it bit me in the ass for a very, very long time. And I can just go back and just give the advice to my 20-year-old self and just to say, hey, take a breather, think twice, and then act.
And these are wise words for a serial entrepreneur, because you're in your 30s and you've been at this for 11 years, which means you started in your 20s. So you have been completely action oriented. So the fact that you're saying, think a little bit and just pause and think about the direction is, it's powerful coming from someone who has, you have taken action your whole life, right? With multiple brands. So that's good advice for anyone who's listening to this. So that's all I have. Are there any last minute words or comments, Nathasha, stuff that we have not talked about that you're burning to get off your chest before we part ways?
Yeah, I think always think about why you're doing it. I think that's really powerful, because we constantly think about how, and we just want to get onto the bandwagon of building. The biggest question that we need to ask ourselves is why. And if our why is clear, I think everything is much more easier. The entire decision making is a lot more easier. The process becomes a lot more easier. So yeah, why?
Okay, thank you so much for your time. This was amazing, as always, and as I imagined it. And I'm sure we're going to be in touch, probably get you back on the show. But good luck with your third venture. And I hope it's everything you imagine it to be.
Yes. Extension and amalgamation of all the learning, I would say.
Absolutely.
And more collaboration.
For sure. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks so much for having me.